Hi, I'm Travis Mons of the Once Upon a Board Game. Today I want to teach you how to play a great little game called Rebirth. Now this is a game that came out just this past year. It kind of was really got its main release at the Essen Spiel Game Convention here in Germany. And Reiner Knizia, the designer, he showed up to sign and autograph boxes. There was a line a mile long. I mean, it was like an hours long wait for people to wait and have him sign their game. So I didn't wait. I snuck to the front and took a picture with him. Sorry if you guys were waiting in line. But I didn't take too much time. I just took a quick picture. But anyway, Reiner Knizia is one of my all-time favorite designers. He has designed hundreds of games, if you're not aware. This is one of his newest. It's a great little tile laying game. Your land tiles onto the board to score points, to get majorities, to fulfill objective cards. It's got a great theme of basically kind of rebuilding civilization after, a series of calamities kind of decimated things. So it's got a great little theme. It's got some great components. It looks really nice set up on the table. Lots of fun, simple rules. And again, it says 2 to 4 players in about 60 minutes. So it's not a super long game either. But it's really cool, really clever, looks great. Let me show you how it plays. Okay, as I said, I'm going to be teaching how to play the game Rebirth. All right, now first and foremost, let's talk about the game board itself. The game board is two-sided. On the front, you see there's Scotland. On the back side is Ireland. Ireland, it is a little bit more advanced. There's some different mission cards and even some tower bonus tiles that you would use if you're playing with the Ireland version. We won't need those, so I'll set those aside. But because of those additional rules, it recommends to start with Scotland. For the first, at least for the first time, maybe for the first couple of times, it recommends using Scotland. Because then Ireland basically uses all the rules for Scotland, but then adds some additional rules that are specific just to the Ireland board. Okay, so I've got it here for Scotland. I'll go ahead and set the rulebook aside for a second. Okay, now let's talk about player pieces. First and foremost, you can see I've got them kind of off the side of the screen, but each player is going to get a number of these really cool little castle miniatures. They're pretty sweet. And then also some of these cathedral little pieces as well. Okay, I've just kind of got those off to the side because I'm kind of constrained for space. But each player will take those pieces. Each player also has a set of tiles, okay? As you'll notice, there's 36 tiles. There's basically 12 each of 3 different types, okay? There's 12 food farm tiles. You can see they have the leaves. There's 12 energy farm tiles with the little lightning bolt. And there's 12 settlement tiles. And you see with the settlement tiles, there's strength 1, 2, 3, and 4 settlements, with the different number of little houses on there. Okay, so everybody will have their own set of, matching 36 of these tiles. Okay, everybody will basically put them face down and mix them all up, and that's going to be, basically their supply for the game. Although I will note, there's basically 2 different things you would have to do based on player count. If you're playing with a 2-player game or a 4-player game, there's maybe one additional step. First of all, for 2 players, you're going to take the tiles of one of the 2 unused player colors, and you're going to basically just flip them face down because what's on the tile won't matter. You're just using them to cover up spaces to tighten the board for a better 2-player experience. And there is a nice picture in the rulebook that shows what spaces to cover on the board if you're playing 2 players. Okay, but if you don't want to look in the rulebook, those spaces that you cover also have a little tile icon in the corner, so you know where to put those tiles if you're playing, with a 2-player game. Okay, so with 2 players, you also have to do that before you're ready to play. If you're playing with 4 players, each of the players is going to have to remove a couple of their tiles just to make sure that you don't run out of spaces before the tiles are all used. Okay, each player in a 4-player game will take 3 of their food farm tiles, 3 of their energy farm tiles, and 3 of their settlement tiles, specifically a strength 2, 3, and 4. Okay, each player will remove those 9 tiles from their tile supply, and they're just discarded out of the game. You won't use those. You will use the remaining tiles for your supply for the game. Again, that's specifically for a 4-player game. Okay. For 3 players, no change or no additional step is needed. Okay. You're going to basically take the deck of these mission cards, shuffle it up, and put it on the space on the board there. Each player can get a nice little player aid, and then everybody's going to get their little clan board. And each clan board will also come with these 2 little achievement markers. You're going to put the one that's blank there initially. These basically just track if you make a lap around the scoreboard where you get an additional 1 or 2 or 300 points. Okay, so you just kind of set those aside with your clan board. Okay, then you're going to have to do one last thing. Of your mixed up tiles, again, if you're playing with 4 players, it would be the ones that you're actually using. Okay, from all your tiles, you're going to randomly draw 2 of them and put them on your clan board. Okay, those tiles are out of play. You will never use those in the game. At any point, you can look at them just to remember what was removed. But those tiles are not ever going to come into play, are going to get put on the board. Those are just out of your supply. Finally, you will draw one tile privately into your hand. That will be the first tile that you play on your first turn of the game. Okay. Everybody would keep that secret, but since I'm playing for two people, I'll just leave them face up here so I can remember what's going on. Okay. Finally, you'll take your little score marker and put it on space 0 of the score track. Now, I want to mention I do have the deluxe or limited edition, whatever it's called. It comes with a few extra things, like it comes with little draw tiles for each player, and it comes with these little nice little blimp scoring pieces. I'm just going to set all that aside. I can't remember what other differences there are between the limited edition and just the standard edition, but it is very beautiful and it looks great. So I'm just going to play it with how it's laid out like this. Okay. With that being said, once you've got the mission cards ready, once everybody's got their tile supply appropriate with the 2 set aside and the 1 in their hand, then basically you're going to be ready to play. So I'll pause for a second to set up the board for a 2-player game, and then I'll continue. Before I go any further, I just want to apologize that I've had to cut off some of the game board just to make everything fit, so you can still see the player pieces and whatnot. But the game board is great. I really like how there's a little reminder for how settlements score. There's a great little legend, a little key for the symbols that you see on the board. So that's really helpful. Okay, but how do we play? How does a turn work, and how does the game end? What are we trying to do? Well, a turn is very, very simple. If you remember, the last little part of setup was we drew a tile into our hand, kind of our starting tile, okay? So on your turn, you simply place your tile onto the board, then you're gonna score that tile, and then you draw a new tile into your hand to end your turn. Super easy. Play your tile, maybe score something, and draw a new tile. That's it. And you keep going around the table like that, again and again and again, placing tiles until everybody is out of tiles, okay? Once all the tiles are gone, game over. Right? Then we add up final scores. So of course, we're going to be scoring points during the game, but to that score, there's a couple of things that you add up at game end scoring. First of all of the settlements that have not yet been completed, there's going to be a partial settlement scoring. And I'll mention how all this works at the end. I'll actually show you how it scores. Okay? But at the end of the game, there's going to be partial settlement scoring. Then everybody will score all of the mission cards that they've been able to achieve. And then we score for each person will score for how many castles they control on the game board. Okay, you add that up, and the highest score wins. Now, this does have really, really unique tiebreaker rules, which I want to point out. It really makes me smile. I think it's awesome. So it says if there's a tie for the win, once you've added up, in addition to the points during the game, once you've added in the partial settlements and your cards and your castles you control, if there's still a tie, then it says whoever controls Edinburgh Castle is the winner. Okay, of those tied players, there's a little symbol on Edinburgh Castle to remind you that that's the castle that's going to be the tiebreaker. So if the players are tied, whichever of those tied players is the one controlling Edinburgh Castle is the winner. If neither of the tied players is the one controlling Edinburgh, then the final tiebreaker of the game is who is controlling Stirling Castle, even if that is not one of the tied players for the lead. So if the tied players, with more points are not the ones in control of Edinburgh, and somebody, possibly the person with the least number of points, if they're the ones controlling Stirling Castle at the end of the game, they win. So it's kind of a funny, unique little twist on how to win the game, how the ties are broken. So reminder, most points is going to win. If there's a tie of the tied players, whoever controls Edinburgh. If it's still tied, then whoever is controlling Stirling Castle is the winner, even if that wasn't one of those tied players. Kind of unique, kind of interesting, but I kind of like it. I think it's a cool way to break ties, because no one likes to rejoice in a shared victory, right? Anyway, all right. So a couple other things I want to mention really quick. Okay, first of all, let's look at the board. You'll notice there's some yellow and purple spaces. The yellow spaces represent the different cathedrals. Okay, there's 8 of them, and that's why we have these little 8 of these little cathedral little markers, because basically anytime that you place one of your tiles next to a cathedral space, you're going to basically mark, basically the first time that you visit each one of those spaces, you will mark that I have visited that cathedral. And what happens when you visit a cathedral? Well, by visiting a cathedral, you get to draw a mission card. Okay? So if I later put another tile next to that cathedral, well, I've already visited that cathedral, so I do not get a second card. The only way you can get another card is to visit another cathedral. So at most, you could get 8 gold cards over the course of the game if you end up visiting all 8 of the cathedrals. Okay, and then these little markers are just a reminder of which ones you've already visited. so you know when you're done, when you've already gotten all of your cards. And what do the cards look like? What are those all about? Well, each one is going to give you points for something. There's some that just give you points with no other objective, no other requirement. But other cards, they will give you points if you meet a certain condition. Okay, so there's a whole bunch, 5 points if I do this, 5 points if I do this, just, a flat 3 points for doing nothing, that kind of thing. So there's a whole bunch of different objective cards that you're trying to complete. And again, you get these by putting one of your tiles next to a cathedral. So that's one thing that you can do. I also want to mention, you'll see all over the board are printed symbols. Okay, you see the little energy farm printing, you see the little food farm, little printed symbols, and you see the little settlements. I do want to point out all of the settlements are outlined, so they're really easy to see at a quick glance. And they're outlined with a number of lines equal to the number of spaces in that settlement. So for the size 1 settlements, there's just 1 line. For the size 2 settlements, there's 2 lines, and then 3 lines around the size 3 settlements. So it's got a good visual appeal, and things kind of pop out. It might not show up as well on the camera screen, but when you're looking up closer at the game board, it's really easy to see what's what. Okay, let me go ahead and start playing, and then I'll kind of talk through some of these additional rules as I go. As you can see, the first tile that I drew as part of setup is a food farm. Okay, where can I place this? Well, food farm tiles are, let me see if I can find one. Perfect. Food farm tiles and energy farm tiles are basically, they play the same way on the board and they score the same way, okay? So what's gonna happen is food farm tiles can only ever be placed on food farm spaces or blank spaces. Similarly, energy farm tiles can be placed on the lightning bolts, on the energy farms, or on the blank spaces. You can never place those in the settlements, and the settlements can never be placed in the blank spaces or the leaves or lightning bolts, okay? The settlements always have to go in those settlements, and these have to always go on their matching printed symbol or the blank ones, okay? The only exception is if, like for instance, if I have an energy farm, if all of the energy farms on the whole board are covered and all of the blank spots on the whole board are covered, then I could place an energy tile on some leaves or vice versa. So these two, that's the only way you can ever break that rule, if all of the spaces are filled and there's literally nowhere to put it. And you could put these on each other's spots, okay? But that's not very common, okay? So typically these are gonna go on a blank space or their matching symbol on the board, okay? And whenever you place one of these on the board, remember, step 1 of your turn is place it on the board. Step 2 of your turn is score the tile. And then of course you end your turn by drawing again. So whenever you place one of these, like let's say I put it right here, okay? Whenever you place a tile, and again, the food farms and the energy farms score the same way. You will immediately score points, 1 point per tile in a connected contiguous grouping of the same type of tile, okay? Clearly there's only 1 tile there connected, so I would just score 1 point, okay? If I later put another food farm next to it, then I would have 2 food farms and I would score 2 points and so on, okay? But again, it has to be the same type. So if I put an energy farm tile here, even though I have 2 of my tiles adjacent, they're different types. So it would just score 1 point, if that makes sense. Okay, I placed here, so a couple of other things happen. First of all, I placed next to a cathedral. So I'm gonna mark that I visited that cathedral and that gets me a goal card. Again, this first one, hey, I'm just gonna score a flat 3 points. There's nothing else I need to do. I'm a little bit bummed because I would have liked to have some direction, some kind of focus of what I should try and do. But hey, I'm not gonna argue about getting 3 points. Okay, so again, I placed next to that. I also placed next to a castle. Okay, if you remember, part of the game end scoring that I mentioned was scoring for castles. Every castle that you control at the end of the game is going to score you 5 points each. So you want to control as many castles as possible. Okay, and controlling castles is basically going to be determined by who has the most of their tiles surrounding that castle, with a couple of little caveats. So right now, as I'm the only one touching that castle, I'm the one in control. Okay, so if later on, if Allie comes in and puts a tile there and we're tied, okay, the first tiebreaker is who has more farms, who has more energy and or food farms touching that tile. Because if I have a farm and Allie only has a settlement touching the castle, then the more farms is the first tiebreaker. So if Allie came in there with just a settlement to my farm, I would win the tie. I would remain, I would have control of the castle. Okay. If there's still a tie, ties basically are going to be broken in favor of the person who is not the active player. Kind of the person who was there first, so to speak, is going to be the one to break the tie. And I'll kind of come back to this as control of castles might be switching hands, because it might sound a little confusing at first, but it's really not that hard to remember or hard to figure out. Okay, so again, I was able to visit this cathedral by going next to it, which gave me a card, and now I'm the only one there, so I control the castle. So that was my turn. I end by drawing a new tile. Over to Allie. Allie also started the game with a food farm tile. Okay, so she's looking, she could come in here and try and fight me for control of this castle. Okay, she could, by going here, she would be visiting a cathedral, so she'd put one of her little markers there to give herself a goal card. But would she take control of the castle? No, she wouldn't. Because if you remember, the first tiebreaker is, who has the most tiles. Okay, if there's a tie, the first tiebreaker is who has more farms. We have the same number of farms. So the second level tiebreaker is, well, ties are broken in favor of who is already there. Basically the active player loses the tie. So if Allie goes here, she would not take over that castle. So she's thinking she can do something better. Maybe she's going to come right here and do basically the same thing with this cathedral and this castle. Okay, so she places her tile and she scores it. So there's only one connected farm, so she scores 1 point. But now she gets to visit this cathedral and get herself a goal card. This one basically says, hey, score 5 points at the end of the game if she has the most medium settlements where she occupies at least one space. The medium settlements are the size 2 settlements. You can see, like, here's one here, and one here. That kind of stuff, right? So she wants to have presence in the most of those. And oh, by the way, in the rule book, it does say that with your goal cards, even if you are tied with somebody else at the table, for the most, you can still score the points for your goal cards, okay? So Allie's going to be trying to get presence in a bunch of these medium-sized settlements, okay? I'll put that face up so I can remember what she's got. Okay, so she visited the cathedral, and now she's also next to a castle, so she can take control of that castle. Okay, then Allie would end her turn by drawing a new tile, and it'd come back to me. Okay, I would love to put maybe another farm there and score for a bigger settlement. A bigger connected grouping of farms, but I have a settlement. Okay, so let's look at how a settlement is going to work. Okay, again, settlements have to go on a settlement space. Okay, they can never go on the leaves or the lightning bolts or even the blank spaces. These can only go in the settlements. Okay. I want to also point out that there's a few ports on the game board. The ports are the ones, obviously, next to the sea, and they all have like a little +1 point next to them. Okay, you see, so there's some here. Okay, whenever you basically place a settlement next to that, you're going to immediately score 1 point for being at a port, and then of course the regular settlement scoring will apply. Okay, so I don't have a goal telling me necessarily what type. If this were Allie's turn, she would want to go maybe in a medium-sized settlement. But I don't have any of those goals yet, so I'm not sure what to do. However, you know what? The biggest potential point value come in the size 3 settlements, right? Because the majority of presence in that is 8 points versus the majority in the size 2 settlement is just 5 points. So maybe I want to put my little settlement down here where, once again, I'm touching a cathedral. So I will put a cathedral there to give myself another goal card. And basically, I'll score 5 points at the end of the game if I have the largest energy farm. Okay, that's good to know. And also, I'm touching a castle. So I'm going to be in control of Edinburgh. Okay, which, again, that's the one, that would be the first tiebreaker at the end of the game. Who's controlling Edinburgh Castle? Okay, I didn't score any points immediately for the settlement because they score once the settlement is complete. Or at the end of the game, incomplete settlements is part of that game end scoring. Okay, so I placed my tile. There was nothing to score yet, so I would end my turn by drawing a new tile. And I got an energy farm, which, hey, I want to have the biggest energy farm, so I'm excited about that. Okay, back over to Allie. Allie has an energy farm, and she's thinking, you know what? She could maybe double down on her presence and control of this castle, but maybe she wants to give herself, actually she will. She'll do that. She'll come right here, okay? There's no benefit to going here because even though she has 2 of her tiles connected, they're different types of tiles. So she would not score 2 points. She would only score for the connected energy farms. So she will go here because now she's got a stronger connection to that castle, a stronger control. Also, she's visiting another cathedral, okay? So she will put a little marker to show that she's visiting that cathedral and give herself another goal. This says she wants to have the most food farms, okay? The most food farms of size 3 or more. So at the end of the game, that's another thing she's gonna be going for, okay? I forgot, she did score 1 point for putting a tile there. It was a size 1 energy farm. She visited the cathedral, got herself a card, and she maintained control of the castle. So she'll end her turn by drawing up. She's got another energy farm. Now I eventually want to have the biggest energy farm. And I can see there's a big, huge connected set of energy tile or energy spaces there. There's also a big set of connected energy spaces here. So one way or the other, I'm thinking maybe I want to go there. But I'm thinking maybe I'll come down here, first of all. Maybe I'll come here because Stirling Castle was the second tiebreaker. You know, who controls Edinburgh? The second was who controls Stirling Castle. So maybe I'll come here. So first of all, it's a size 1 farm, so I can score 1 point. I'm going to be able to visit that cathedral. So I'll put a little marker there and get myself a goal. It says, hey, I want to have the longest coastline. I want to occupy the longest sequence of contiguous spaces on the coast. Okay, so that's something else I want to be doing. Okay, so I visited the cathedral, and I have the majority presence next to that castle, so I'm in control of Stirling Castle. Okay, then I would end my turn by drawing a new tile. So you see the turns are really snappy. Boom. Place a tile, possibly score some points, get yourself an objective, draw up, and your turn's over. So the turns are really quick. I'm taking a little bit longer just because I'm kind of talking through and describing and explaining. Okay, so Allie has an energy farm. So, you know, she would like to go maybe here to get, sure, why not? She's not going to give herself another objective, but she is solidifying and probably all but guaranteeing that she has control of that castle. And she has 2 connected energy farms. Okay, so she scores 2 points for having 2 next to each other. So she'll score 2. And there's nothing else for her to do other than draw back up for the next turn. Okay, she's got a settlement. Okay, over to me. I also want to have, again, the longest contiguous group of energy farm tiles. So I am going to go here to once again solidify my strength in my hold on that castle. And I also score 2 points. And then I would end my turn by drawing back up. I got another fruit farm. And again, I got to be thinking also about getting along the coastline. Okay, I don't really have anything along the coast yet, but that is one thing that I want to be aiming for my objective. Okay, back over to Allie. Allie has a settlement. And if you remember, she wants to have presence in medium-sized settlements. Okay, she could go here, you know, because that's a medium settlement. But she really, when you think about the fact that there's only 6 tiles around a castle, she's already got 3 and they're all farms. There's no way that anybody's going to be able to beat that. So she has no need to go to this settlement. So rather, she would go to a different settlement. Maybe she could come here and give herself an immediate point for going to a port. Or, coming here would give her control of the castle, but this would give her an extra point for the port. Ooh, which one to do? Or does she want to go somewhere else? There's a medium-sized settlement down here. Oh, this is probably good. She'll come here because it gives her another cathedral, which gives her another card, which says she wants to occupy the most spaces next to Blair Castle, which is kind of, right here. So she wants to control that castle. If she does, she'll get 5 points. So Allie got the cathedral card, and she's controlling this castle. Okay. Again, the settlement doesn't score yet because it's not full. Then she will end her turn by drawing back up. Over to me. I want to get coastline. I would like to do this though, because it's going to give me extra points, but maybe I can get to the coast and do some of that as well. Let's see. Sure. You know what? I'm going to just come here. I'll get myself 1 point because there's nothing else connected to it yet. And I'm going to be controlling this castle. Okay. Then I would end my turn, by drawing a new tile. And I have already kind of mentioned it a little bit just based on, placing adjacent to it, but I guess it goes without saying, the energy and food farms can only go on their printed spaces or the blank ones, and the settlements have to go in the cities. So really, I didn't specifically say it, but you can never place one of your tiles on a castle space or on a cathedral space, or of course in the water. Okay, I didn't specifically say that, but it's, it's kind of implied with what I had already been explaining. Okay, so again, I ended my turn and I drew back up. So then it's back over to Allie. Allie could just immediately score. You know what? She will. She'll go ahead and do this. First of all, she's going to place her tile here, which is going to immediately complete the settlement. Okay, so let's look at the settlement scoring. Okay, if it's a size 1 settlement, okay, if it's one of those spaces like this right here where there's only 1 space as part of that settlement, it will immediately score points equal to what was your influence. Something like this with an influence of 2 with 2 houses. A size 1 settlement would immediately score 2 points. Okay, if I put one of my 4 house ones there, it would score 4 points, right? That's how the size 1 settlements are going to work. Okay, with a size 2 settlement, whoever has the stronger presence is going to score 5, and second place will score 3. Okay, and once again, Just like when you're coming in to break ties for castles, the active player is going to lose any tie. So if I already had a size 2 in there and Allie came in with a 2, as the active player, she would lose the tie, and I would win. I would score the higher points for that settlement. If they're like in a size 3 settlement, if there is still a tie, basically ties are broken in clockwise order from the active player. Okay, that doesn't happen in a size 2 settlement. It's either going to be all one person, or if there's a tie, and if we're tied for strength, the active player is going to lose that tie. Okay, but here's an important thing, and this is why I wanted to mention this. Okay, if you fill up all the spaces yourself, whether it's a size 2 or a size 3, you score all of those points. You score first place and second place points. So instead of Allie getting the 5 and me getting the 3, for instance, Allie gets all 8 of those points. She gets the 5 and the 3. In a size 3 settlement, for instance, you would get the 8 and the 5 for first and second place. Okay, so Allie just scored 8 points for first and second place, the 5 and the 3 for that settlement. So with 8 more points from 4, she's at 12. Okay, then she'd end her turn by drawing another tile. Oh, and she's got a size 3 settlement, or a strength 3 settlement. Okay, back over to me. A food farm, you know what? I'm going to go right here because it's along the coastline. It solidifies my hold on that castle. And hey, there's 2 connected food farms, so I score 2 points. I end my turn by drawing back up. Ooh, a strength 4 settlement. I like that. Back to Allie. Allie's got a size 3 settlement, or a strength 3 settlement, rather. She's thinking, you know what? Her goal says she should be getting in medium settlements. At the same time, she wants to control Blair Castle. So she's thinking, do I want to go there? So if she went there, she would immediately score 3 points for a strength 3 settlement. She would immediately be visiting this cathedral and she'd be in control of the castle. However, one thing to think about is if I come in there later, with a farm, if we each have 1 tile, farms break the tie over settlements for control of a castle. So maybe Allie's thinking, that might not be the best thing to do yet. She could maybe come to a big one and try and get a bunch of presents for maybe get control of a size 3 settlement. Sure, why not? Maybe she'll do that. She'll come here. And so going here gives her immediately 1 extra point for being at a port. And she will take control of this castle of Aberdeen. Okay. The settlement is not complete yet. So that stays as is. And then she'll end her turn by drawing a tile. Back to me. I've got a size 4 settlement. Or I keep saying size 4. A strength 4. Ooh, what do I want to do? You know what? I think I'm going to do this. I'm going to come down here because I'm going to give myself another objective by visiting that cathedral. And again, this is how it happens. If 2 people visit the same one, it doesn't matter who's on top. This is just a way to show that I've already gotten my card from that cathedral. Okay, it doesn't matter. You just stack yours on top of it if you visit one that somebody else has already visited. But I'm also next to this castle, so I take control of that castle. Okay. Then again, the settlement is not complete, so that tile doesn't score points yet. And I end my turn by drawing. And maybe I'll take just one or 2 more turns, and I'll kind of fast forward to how it might look later on in the game. Okay. Allie has a food farm, so she could go here and give herself 2 points. Or, you know what? Maybe she wants to come over here. Sure, she's going to do this. She's going to come here. At the moment, it's all by itself. It's not quite connected. But if she gets this one, of course, then she scores 3 points for having 3 connected. And she can go there because it's a blank tile. Okay, energy or food farms can go there. So she'll go there and she'll score 1 point for it being all alone. But she's going to give herself an objective for visiting this cathedral. Okay. Her new objective says, hey, she wants to control Aberdeen Castle. Oh, the one that I just took over. So Allie wants to get in and control that one. Okay. But also, now she's controlling Blair Castle, which is one of her objectives. So she wanted to go there. Okay. So then she'd end her turn by drawing another tile. Then I'm back over to me, and maybe I'll take one last turn for each of us with another size 1. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to come here to get myself an extra point for being in a port. And then I'm going to try and get maybe a longer connected set of tiles on the coastline for my objective. I end my turn by drawing. And then Allie, again, has a size 3. Allie could say she could come here and get a presence in a medium settlement and immediately win that settlement with 3 strength to my 1 strength and control a castle. Sure. Oh, you know what, though? She could also just come right here. She is going to do that. She's going to come here because she's going to score 1 point immediately for going to a port. Plus, the settlement now is complete. And what was her score for that settlement? Well, it's the strength of your tile. This is a size 3 or a strength 3 settlement. So she scores 3 more points. And then she also takes control of this castle. Okay, so that was Allie's turn. And then she would draw back up. And again, now maybe I'll fast forward a little bit to show how the game board might look a little bit further on into the game. Sorry, I just said I was going to fast forward, but I wanted to point out another little reminder of this. Allie has an energy farm, and she's thinking about doing this to score 3 points for a big connection. But she also is looking at maybe ousting me from this castle. Because if she goes here instead, sure, at the moment she's only going to score 1. Okay, and then she's hoping that I won't want to go there for a single point so that she can then later put one in there to score 4. But the reason why she would go here is now the number of tiles we each have here is 1 to control for that castle. Okay, so the first tiebreaker is who has more farms. So even though I have a size or a strength 4 settlement, she has a farm. So mine would not count really. And so she would oust me and she would take control of that castle by going there. So she would just score 1 point, but she would take control of the castle. Okay, so I wanted to illustrate again how those ties are broken like that. Okay, the game's not quite over, but it's almost there. We each have 1 tile left. So we have 1 final turn. And I've got a strength 3 settlement tile. So the options I have are I can go here and complete this. And since I would completely fill up the size 3 settlement, I would score the first and second place points, which is pretty attractive. I could do the same thing over here to fill this one, but Allie would be second place. So I would only get 8, she would get 5. So I would only get 3 points there versus, 13 points if I could come here. If I come here, and if the game, I wouldn't normally know what Allie has. So I don't know if she'd be able to finish one of those. If those finish incomplete, the partial scoring is basically you just score your strength. So I'd score 8 points here and 2 points here and 3 points here, in game end scoring. So, not knowing what Allie can do and whether or not she's going to finish something, I think my best bet is to just completely fill up this settlement. Okay, so if I completely fill a size 3 settlement, I would score the first and second place point. So I would get the 8 and the 5. So I would score 13 points for that. So that's a big move. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Hey, I hit exactly on 100. So I'll flip this over to show I've got 100 points. Okay, then I'm done because I'm out of tiles. Allie is looking at 1 last tile. Okay, now she was looking at this earlier. I misspoke earlier. When I first drew this, I said, oh, she wants to control Aberdeen Castle. I didn't read. She doesn't need to control the castle. She wants to have the most spaces around the castle. Okay, similar with these cathedrals and castle tiles, these goals. So she's looking at Aberdeen. So she's sitting really pretty with most of her objective cards. This is the one she's looking at where she is currently losing. She only has 2 tiles next to Aberdeen to my 3. So maybe she wants to go here to tie up because it does say ties also satisfy. So she could go there to score 1 single point for the food farm, but then she would guarantee the 5 points for that goal. So she would maybe net 6 points. But she's got a huge food farm here. And so if she adds on to that, if she puts it here, she would score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I think that's more points. I think she's thinking that's a better bet. Even if she says goodbye to that goal, this is 9 points to only getting, the 5 plus 1 over there. So she will go there. So she'll get final 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. So that's her last tile. Game over. Okay. So now all that's left is the final scoring. Okay. So the first thing you do, and there's a little summary, right here in the middle of the rule book is the Scotland rules and then the Ireland rules. In the end of the rule book, it says final scoring. First of all, we score incomplete settlements, then we score castles, then we score our cards, our mission cards, right? So incomplete settlements, this is what I was just talking about. Really, there's only 2. There's these 2 right here that are not complete. All the rest were filled in. So right here, and again, the way that you score incomplete settlements is just what is your influence in that settlement. Here, Allie has 3 influence, so she scores 3 points. 1, 2, 3, so she's also over 100. And down here, she has 1 influence, so she scores 1. Okay, I have no influence there. I've got 2 there, so I score 2. So we're tied after that first game end scoring. Next is castles. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 castles times 5 points apiece is 40. So from 2 to 42. So I'll come over there. Allie has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So she's got 7 castles, so she's got 35. So 35 and 2 is 37. Okay, and finally, the mission cards. Okay, we'll go and do Allie's first. Cathedral bonus, just 3 points for being for this card. Nothing else required, so she scores 3. 1, 2, 3. This one says she wants to have the most spaces around the Inverness Cathedral, which is right here. She's got 3 tiles surrounding it to my 2. So she does get that. She scores 5 points. So from 40 to 45. This one is similarly, occupy the most spaces adjacent to the Perth Cathedral, which is right here. Allie's got 3 to my 2. Allie also gets this one. 5 more puts her at 50. This is, she wants to occupy the most spaces along the English border, which is right here, right? The border with England. She's got 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, or 4 tiles along that border to my 1. So she does get that. She gets 5 more. This one is, she wants to occupy the most spaces next to Blair Castle. Blair Castle is this one right here, and she's got 4 of her tiles to my 1. So she's winning there. So she scores those 5 points. This says, similarly, she wants to have the most around Aberdeen. That's what we just looked at. She's got 2 to my 3. She does not score those 5 points. She wants to have the most food farms of 3 or more tiles connected. Okay, she's got 1 down here with 3 food farms. She's got that huge one that she just did at the end of the game, and that's it. So she's got 2. Meanwhile, I have 1 right here, and I only have 2. That's not 3. This is only 2. So I have 2 right there. So I don't have, she's got 2 of size 3 or more. I only have 1 of that big. So she does win this one as well for 5 more points. And finally, she wants to have the most medium settlements where she occupies at least 1 space. Well, on this map, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 medium settlements. She is in 2 of them. I'm in 2 of them. Okay. So it does say ties satisfy this condition. So with her 2 to my 2, she does meet that. She gets 5 more points. So Allie's final score would be 170. Then we look at my tiles. Similarly, I just had a 3-point bonus tile. So I'll get those 3 points. And then I wanted to occupy the most of the small settlements. Well, there's 5 of those on the board. I had 1 here, and I had 1 right here. Allie, unfortunately, got 3. She had 1 here, and here, and here. So she had 3 to my 2. She beat me. I don't score those 5 points. I wanted to have the longest coastline. Okay, I was looking at this throughout the game, and I've got 4 here along the coast. I've got 3 here along the coast. So my longest, I think, is 4, and Allie doesn't have 4 or longer anywhere. So I do get those 5 points. Then I want to have fully occupy the most medium settlements. Well, we just were looking at that with Allie. I've got 2 fully occupied here, and Allie also has 2 fully occupied. So we both have 2, but ties do count. So I get those 5 points. Then the Oban Cathedral. That's this one right here. I want to have the most spaces adjacent to that. Well, I've got 2. Allie's got 2. And again, when you're not scoring for castle majorities, it doesn't matter if I have settlements versus Allie's farms. That's only when you're looking at castle majorities for tiebreakers. I am occupying the most spaces next to that because I'm tied with Allie, so I do meet that condition. So I get those 5 points. I want to have the most energy farms of at least 3 spaces or more. Well, I've got a big one here, and I've got 1 over here, so I've got 2. Allie, let's see, that's only 2. Allie's got 1 here. Those are all separate, so those are not connected, so that's separate. So Allie only has 1. So I have 2. I have the most, so I get those 5 points. Ooh, am I going to be able to beat her? Let's see. Edinburgh Cathedral, the most spaces by Edinburgh. I've got 3 to Allie's 1. I get those 5 points, and I tie her. And the largest energy farm. Well, mine is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to Allie's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, I got that 5 points, and I won. Woohoo! So final score would be 175 for me to 170 for Allie. Had I not gotten that last goal, and we would have ended up tied. Remember, the first tiebreaker is, of the tied players, who is controlling Edinburgh Cathedral? And that would be me. So I would win that tie anyway. Okay. Then again, that second level tiebreaker, would be of any player, doesn't matter if they were tied for the lead or not, who's controlling Stirling Castle here would win the tie. But I did have that last goal, and I did win without the tiebreaker. So that's how you play the Scotland version. Let me show you just a couple of quick things about how the Ireland version is different. Okay, with the Ireland side of the board, first of all, you're going to grab these tower bonus tiles. You're going to randomize them, and you're basically going to put 1 at the bottom of each of these tower spaces. Okay, so we have these towers instead of the cathedrals, like on the Scotland side. So you're going to randomize it. You're going to put 1 at the bottom of each of these. once you've done that, then you're going to flip them all face up to see, you know, what those tower bonuses are. The different towers are going to give you a different either points or maybe an extra turn, or you're going to get your own private goal card or so on. But these towers have, you know, different benefits. And there is, in the back of the Ireland rulebook, a great little summary of what those tower tiles do for you, okay? So first of all, you're going to set up the board differently in that way. Each one of those towers is going to have a space. And then you take, there's only 12 of these goal cards, okay? So you're going to randomize, you're going to shuffle the deck, and then you will put basically in a face-up display off to the side, you're going to put 8 of the cards face up that are going to be known public objectives for everybody to be going for. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then there's going to be just 4 cards left over. They're going to go on the draw pile because one of the towers that you visit, it's going to be this one right here. This tower bonus is you get to draw yourself a private goal card. Okay, whenever you put one of your little tiles next to that. Okay, so you know that there's objectives that everybody is going for, and it's a little bit of a race. So you have your little cathedral tiles, and we all know what we're going for, and it's a race. So the first person to meet the objective is going to basically put their little cathedral to score the 8 points or 6 points, you know, whatever it may be for first place. And then all future players have the option to score the lower number of points, but only the first person to do it is going to get that higher number of points. You can only score each card once, so that's why you would be able to put your 8 little cathedral markers to show that you've scored each card possibly over the course of the game. Okay. One of the benefits is you can put basically a point doubler. This is another little Ireland piece. You could put it so that once it has to be a goal you haven't met yet, but you can put down double points so that when you do score it, you're going to score double. So that's another thing that's a little bit different. Okay. And again, you do have the option to get at least one more private goal that you will also score at the end of the game. And if you do, you would get the higher point value. So with that difference, pretty much the game plays the same as the Scotland side. Although there is also, you know, they have what they call sprawling settlements where there's, you know, a size 4 city as well. So you can see it shows the point value for a size 4 settlement as well. So that's how the Ireland side is a little bit more advanced than the Scotland side. And that's Rebirth. As you can see, it's got a simple rule set, and the game is just beautiful. You know, beautiful pieces, beautiful artwork. But it's just, one thing that I love about Reiner Knizia's designs is that for such simple rules of just play a single tile on the board and score points, right? But just the depth of all that you're thinking about and what you're trying to do, and it just, the game is just really rich and full. And it's kind of surprising from hearing what the rules are. It doesn't sound like there would be too much to think about, but when you really get into it, thinking about, you know, scoring, you know, to get connected chains to score more points, you know, for the energy or the regular farms, or trying to, you know, set up, you know, to get the scoring conditions for some of those objective cards, or, you know, try to set up majorities, you know, to get the castles. It's just, it's got so much to think about, but it's so simple at its heart, and it's a classic Reiner Knizia. This kind of just illustrates why he's just such a master of designing games. It's a lot of fun. Hopefully this teaches you how to play. Hopefully you understand the rules and you're able to sit down and do it yourself. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Again, I appreciate your willingness to watch. Give me a like and a subscribe if you get a chance. I'm Travis Mons with Once Upon a Board Game. Thanks a lot.